All right, if you've been watching the sports across the world, you'll have started to notice that a lot of sporting leagues have actually been suspended or brought to a halt. And for more on some of these restrictions, particularly by New Zealand and the impact that they'll have on Super Rugby, for example, I'm now joined by sports reporter and anchor Simon Burke. Simon, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, Peter.
So we saw the Premier League come to a storming halt, and I think they're going to kick off again in April. The NBA...
Yeah, that's what they say.
This is what they hope,
That's what they say. That's what they hope. This is the principle everyone's living by. And it was grudgingly or with as much evidence that they had at their disposal and as much advice as they were being given. But you slowly saw the sports bodies start to filter in line and start addressing what this is. And it's a pandemic, and it means all hands on deck, and everybody must fall in line with. And everybody was waiting, and the Premier League was the biggest. And as soon as they said, right, that's it for now, we've seen everybody's fallen in line. Now Super Rugby.
All right, let's talk about Super Rugby, because is it New Zealand, the government, or have the sports authorities had their hand forced?
No, well, I mean, the sports, SANZAR has had their hand forced because logistically they've got teams all over the place, all through time zones, stretching all the way from New Zealand through to Argentina. At the moment, we've got two teams, one in Australia, one in New Zealand. New Zealand have got two teams outside of their borders. A third one was meant to be coming over to South Africa. They need to get the Crusaders and the Highlanders back. So there's logistics all the way, and the Highlanders have got to fly from Argentina all the way through, and exactly what world leaders have been imploring, and the World Health Organization, stop traveling, do not cross borders at all, is what Super Rugby was up until a couple of hours ago still going to undertake, until they basically got forced into a corner because they weren't going to get their teams back, especially into New Zealand, to play matches. So there's nothing they can do. But that's what we're finding from the sports bodies. They are as rudderless as everybody else is, because it is a pandemic, because it's caught everyone by surprise, and because they just have no expertise in this field.
I suppose the pressure on these sporting bodies is a commercial one.
But that does not hold water at all. I mean, no one can, after the fact, after this is gone, and say, really, our hands were tied by our sponsors. This is unlike anything else that's been experienced before. And this is not about interests and all that kind of stuff. It's about humanity and the fact that there's a virus on the loose. And us as sports people, we don't have a clue what's going on. And that much is evident. And I just point to the fact that South African sports bodies still haven't fallen into line.
All right, so has SANZAR made an announcement?
SANZAR have made an announcement.
What are they
saying? They
saying?
have said it's done for the foreseeable future.
All right, so no date given.
And now we've seen scribes from across the borders saying, possibly it's going to be done for 2 weeks to fall in line with this 14-day self-isolation period that the New Zealand government has imposed. But that is still just people clutching at straws. As of now, no one knows how big this thing is, and anybody who's got any sort of vested interest in this, in a financial sense, is that's the wrong way to be looking at this. But people are hoping, and they don't know what to do.
Are there international sporting codes? I know Formula One were quick off the mark, weren't they? I mean, they
were, but they also copped a fair amount of pressure. I mean, this has all kind of happened in the last week. Cycling as well. They cancelled the Giro d'Italia. They can't have a whole bunch of people flying into Italy at this time. And it has been a case of dribs and drabs, but they've been forced to do this. And it's, a case of you've got to now face up to reality. There's no point in hanging on to see what's going to happen. You will be judged by the decisions you make now, because if you kept hanging on far too long, like some of the South African sports associations. But they're taking their guidance from SASCOC, who takes their guidance from the IOC, and then upwards on the food chain. But we're still having our matches. Cricket, football is still being played. I mean, if we got rugby, domestic tournaments, so we're going to have to be careful.
So local sports still playing, but
it's got to be very careful.
We've just seen Sundowns come out of CAF. What's the position with CAF across the continent?
They also wait and see. Chan, that tournament, they're gonna have a look. They're gonna use that as a testing ground. I mean, I don't think that's adequate. I don't think that's good enough. And CAF's going to be judged pretty harshly, because at some point they'll have to go to FIFA, and everybody around the world will be sitting there going, "But what did you guys do? Why? I mean, you guys, the continent of Africa could have been argued that we had the least amount of cases, and you guys did nothing. You were still having public gatherings and holding tournaments.
We have no timeline.
Something has to happen, and I think in the coming days it will.
So we're supposed to have the European Championships, country championships in the summer.
No, that's all gone.
It's all gone now.
That's gone. Yeah.
My goodness. So what
we're going to have to.
What are we going to watch, Simon?
We're not going to watch anything. We're going to start.
My goodness.
Watching paint dry, grass grow.
All right.
You know, back to the old days.
So come round to my house. We'll play chess.
Archery. You know. That's.
All right. That's where we'll leave it. So as you can hear from Simon, sports getting widely affected, and one of the main consumptions of sport in South Africa, rugby, very much affected now with the Super Rugby.